When did a school suspend a kid, then beg the parents not to sue? My son Kev got suspended for spray painting the school at midnight, and honestly, I thought he'd lost his mind. The principal called me at 1:30 a.m., saying security caught him with 6 cans of red spray paint, vandalizing multiple walls throughout the building. By the time I got there, 3 police officers were taking photos of the damage, while Kev sat in handcuffs looking terrified. Principal Davis showed me the walls, each one covered in huge letters spelling danger, with arrows pointing at specific spots. "Your son has caused over $8,000 in damages," she said coldly. "We're pressing charges for vandalism, trespassing, and destruction of school property." Kev wouldn't explain himself, just kept repeating the same thing. "Dad, please, just check the walls behind the paint. Check where the arrows point." I stared at him confused because that made 0 sense. The police took him to juvenile detention while I drove home alone. The suspension hearing happened 3 days later with the full school board present. Kev sat next to me in his dress shirt, still refusing to explain why he'd broken into the school and vandalized it. Board member Karen Whitlock led the questioning. "Kev, you broke into school property after midnight with premeditated supplies. You caused thousands in damage. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Kev looked at me, then back at her. "Did anyone check the walls like I asked? Did anyone actually look?" The superintendent cut him off. "We looked at the walls, son. We saw your vandalism. That's why we're here." But Kev shook his head frantically. "No, behind the paint. The concrete behind it. Did you check the concrete?" They threatened expulsion, criminal record, restitution payments. Karen suggested psychological evaluation because his responses were clearly disconnected from reality. My wife was crying next to me. The board voted unanimously for expulsion. As we stood to leave, Kev turned around with tears streaming down his face. "When that gym collapses during the assembly next month, remember I tried to warn you." Principal Davis called it a manipulative threat from a disturbed child. That night I couldn't sleep. Kev had been obsessed with architecture since he was 6, ever since I started taking him to my work sites and teaching him how buildings stay standing. By age 13, he could spot load-bearing problems I'd miss on first glance. The next morning, I called my old colleague Dennis, a structural engineer I'd worked with for 15 years. I explained the situation and asked if he'd just look at the school, off the record. "Check the spots my son marked," I begged. "I know it sounds insane, but please, just humor me." Dennis agreed, probably out of pity. He went that afternoon with his equipment while school was in session. I was at work when my phone rang 2 hours later. His voice was shaking. "Get down here right now. Don't let anyone in that building. Call the fire marshal immediately." I arrived to find Dennis standing in the gym with detection equipment, his face completely pale. He walked me to each wall Kev had marked. "Your son marked every single critical failure point," Dennis said quietly. "These walls have stress fractures from foundation subsidence. The soil under the gym is collapsing. See these cracks?" He pointed to hairline fractures barely visible behind Kev's red paint. "These propagate through load-bearing supports. The gym's structural integrity is compromised at 8 separate points. If 400 students packed in here for assembly like they do monthly, the additional weight would trigger progressive collapse. The entire gymnasium would pancake." I felt sick. "When?" Dennis checked his notes. "Best guess, 3 to 5 weeks, maybe sooner if there's ground vibration from construction nearby." The middle school assembly was scheduled for 4 weeks from that day. The fire marshal evacuated the building within an hour. By evening, the local news was covering it as a breaking story about a structural emergency. It took them 6 more hours to realize the kid they'd expelled 3 days earlier was the one who discovered it. Principal Davis showed up at my house at 9 p.m. with the superintendent and Karen Whitlock. They stood on my porch, looking like they might throw up. "We need to speak with you about Kev," the superintendent started. I crossed my arms. "You mean the vandal you expelled? The criminal you wanted prosecuted?" Karen actually started crying. "We didn't know. How could he possibly see what professional inspectors missed?" I let them stand there for a moment. "Because I'm an architect, and I've been teaching him since he could walk. He noticed the cracks during gym class weeks ago. He told his teacher, who dismissed him. He told the school nurse, who sent him back to class. He left notes in the principal's mailbox that no one read. So he broke in at midnight and marked every single failure point he could find, knowing you'd have to investigate vandalism even if you wouldn't listen to a 13-year-old's safety concerns." The superintendent's voice cracked. "If we'd held assembly as scheduled, the collapse would have killed between 200 and 350 students. Your son saved hundreds of lives." They dropped all charges the next morning, and Kev's expulsion was erased like it never happened.